The stars were quiet that night. The human cargo ship Bright Dawn moved slowly through the darkness of space. It was a small vessel, carrying 32 crew members and supplies for a colony on the edge of known space. Captain stood on the bridge, watching the stars pass by. He was a tall man with tired eyes and hair. He had been flying ships for 20 years, and he knew these routes well. "Captain, I am picking up something strange," said the young communications officer. She was only 23 years old, with short black hair and sharp eyes. She had joined the crew 6 months ago, and she was good at her job. Walked over to her station. "What do you see?" "A ship. It is big, very big, and it is coming toward us fast." Before could give any orders, the lights on the bridge turned red. Warning sounds filled the air. The ship shook violently, and several crew members fell to the floor. "They are firing at us," shouted the weapons officer. He was a young man with strong arms and a scar on his cheek. "Our shields are down to 40%. "Return fire," ordered. But it was useless. The enemy ship was too powerful. Within minutes, the Bright Dawn was crippled. The engines died. The weapons went offline. The crew could only watch as the massive alien vessel moved closer and closer. The ship that attacked them was beautiful in a terrible way. It was long and silver, with sharp edges and glowing blue lights. It belonged to the Empire, one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy. There were tall beings with pale blue skin and 4 eyes. They believed they were superior to all other species. They looked at humans the way humans looked at insects. The airlock opened with a loud hiss. Soldiers marched onto the Bright Dawn, their weapons raised. They wore black armor and moved with perfect discipline. Behind them came their commander. Commander was tall, even for him. He stood nearly 8 feet high, with broad shoulders and a face that showed no emotion. His 4 eyes scanned the human crew with cold interest. He wore a long black coat decorated with medals and symbols of his rank. He had conquered dozens of worlds. He had killed thousands of enemies. To him, these humans were nothing more than toys. "Bring them to the holding cells," ordered. His voice was deep and smooth, like oil sliding over water. "I will question them myself." The soldiers grabbed the crew members roughly. Some of the humans tried to fight back, but they were quickly beaten down. Shouted for his people to stay calm, but his words were lost in the chaos. Among the crew was a woman named. She was 26 years old, with long dark hair tied back in a simple ponytail. She was not very tall, and she did not look strong. She worked in the engine room, fixing machines and keeping the ship running. She had grown up in the mountains of Korea, in a small village where life was hard. She had learned to survive cold winters, dangerous storms, and long days of difficult work. But now, as the soldiers pushed her forward, she said nothing. She just watched. The holding cells were cold and dark. The crew was thrown inside without care. Some of them had broken bones. Some of them were bleeding. Tried to count everyone, but it was difficult in the darkness. "Is everyone here?" he asked. "Is missing," someone said, and sat in the corner, her back against the wall. She was thinking. She was always thinking. Her eyes moved around the cell, studying the walls, the door, the ceiling. She noticed small things, a crack in the metal, a loose bolt, the rhythm of the guards walking outside. Hours passed. Then the door opened and the soldiers came again. They grabbed and dragged him away. The others shouted and tried to stop them, but it was hopeless. Was waiting in a large room filled with strange machines. The walls were covered with screens showing images of stars and planets. In the center of the room was a metal chair with straps on the arms and legs. They forced into the chair and locked him in place. "You are the captain of this vessel," said. It was not a question. "Yes," replied. His voice was steady, but his heart was pounding. "You will tell me the location of your colony. You will tell me how many humans live there. You will tell me about your defenses." "I will tell you nothing." Smiled. It was a cold smile without any warmth or humor. "I was hoping you would say that." He pressed a button on a small device in his hand. Electricity shot through the chair, screamed. The pain was terrible, like fire burning through every part of his body. When it stopped, he was gasping for air, his whole body shaking. Again said, "Tell me what I want to know." No. The torture continued for hours, was patient. He had done this many times before. He knew that everyone broke eventually. It was just a matter of time. When they brought back to the cell, he could barely walk. The others caught him and helped him to the floor. His face was pale and his eyes were empty. "They will come for more of us," he whispered. "They want information about the colony." Looked at her captain. She felt something burning inside her chest. It was not fear. It was anger, a deep, quiet anger that she had learned to control long ago. In her village, she had seen people suffer. She had seen her own family struggle against nature, against poverty, against everything that tried to destroy them. And she had learned one important lesson. Pain was not something to fear. Pain was something to use. The door opened again. This time the soldiers pointed at. "You come with us." She stood up slowly. The other crew members looked at her with worry in their eyes, but's face was calm. She walked toward the soldiers without hesitation. As she passed, he grabbed her arm weakly. "Be strong," he whispered. Looked down at him and nodded. "I will," she said. Then she was gone, and the cell fell silent. Was waiting for her in the same room. The chair was still wet with sweat. The machines hummed quietly. Looked at with his 4 cold eyes, studying her like a scientist studying an insect. "You are small," he said. "You look weak. This will not take long." Said nothing. She just stared at him. They strapped her to the chair, held up the device and smiled. "Let us begin." The electricity hit her body like a hammer. Muscles tensed, her teeth clenched, but she did not scream, not at first. Raised an eyebrow. Interesting, he thought. He increased the power. Now screamed. The sound echoed off the walls, filling the room with her pain. Laughed. It was a low, cruel laugh that made even his own soldiers uncomfortable. "Yes," he said. "Scream for me, little human, cry for me. Show me how weak your species truly is." Tears ran down his face. Her body was shaking violently, but deep inside, in a place that could not see, something was growing, something dark and powerful, something that would soon make him regret every word he had spoken. But for now, she just screamed and laughed. The torture lasted for 3 days, brought the human prisoners to his room one by one. He used electricity, heat, cold, and other methods that were too terrible to describe. Some of the humans broke quickly and told him everything they knew. Others held on longer but eventually gave in. A few said nothing at all, no matter what he did to them. Those ones he found boring and sent them back to the cells. But was different. She screamed, she cried. She begged him to stop. Her body shook with pain and her voice became rough from all the screaming. But she never gave him any information, not a single word about the colony, not a single name, not a single number. Found this strange. He had broken soldiers who were twice her size. He had made warriors from powerful species cry like children. But this small human woman, who looked like she would fall over in a strong wind, refused to break completely. "Why do you resist?" he asked her on the 3rd day. "Your pain means nothing. Your silence changes nothing. I will find your colony eventually. I will destroy it. Why suffer for something you cannot save?" Looked up at him. Her face was covered in sweat and tears. Her lips were bleeding from where she had bitten them. But her eyes were still alive, still burning with something that could not understand. "Because," she whispered, "you will never understand what it means to be human." Laughed at her. He laughed long and loud, and the sound filled the room like poison. "What it means to be human," he repeated. "I know exactly what it means. It means being weak. It means being afraid. It means dying on your knees while begging for mercy." He pressed the button again and screamed once more. Later that night, sat alone in his private room. He was drinking a dark blue liquid that helped him relax. His first officer, a thin named, entered the room and bowed. Commander, I have the report you requested. The report on what? On the human Earth. Waved his hand. Put it on the screen. I am curious about what kind of planet produces such stubborn creatures. Pressed a button and the screen on the wall lit up. It showed a blue and green planet floating in space. Had seen many planets in his life. He expected Earth to be soft and gentle, a paradise world where weak beings lived comfortable lives. He was wrong. Earth is classified as a Category 9, read from the report. Gravity is one standard, which is very high for biological life. The atmosphere contains high levels of oxygen, which is extremely reactive and dangerous. The planet experiences extreme temperature changes, from -89 degrees to +57 degrees. Weather patterns include hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions. Sat up, continue. The planet is covered with dangerous life forms. Predators exist in every environment, land, sea, and air. Many plants and animals produce deadly poisons. Diseases are common and can spread rapidly. The dominant species, humans, evolved in competition with these dangers. They developed high pain tolerance, rapid healing, extreme endurance, and the ability to adapt to almost any environment. Set down his drink. His 4 eyes were now very focused. A Category 9. Yes, Commander, the highest category. Most species from such worlds are considered extremely dangerous. The Galactic Council recommends avoiding contact with them. But humans look so fragile. Shifted uncomfortably. According to the data, Commander, their appearance is deceiving. Humans can survive wounds that would kill most species instantly. They can function without sleep for extended periods. They can eat almost any biological material without dying. They can run for hours without stopping. Their bones are dense, their muscles are efficient, and their minds are. He paused. Their minds are what? Unpredictable, Commander. The report says human psychology is extremely complex. They form strong emotional bonds. They experience powerful feelings of love, hate, loyalty, and revenge. When threatened, they can become extremely violent, and they never forget. The report specifically warns about something called spite. Humans will sometimes hurt themselves just to hurt their enemies more. Was silent for a long moment. He thought about the woman in the torture room, her screams, her tears, but also her eyes, those burning, defiant eyes that refused to die no matter how much pain he gave her. He remembered laughing at her pain. For the first time in many years, felt something cold in his stomach. It was not fear. He was too proud to call it fear, but it was close. Tell me about this woman, he said, the one with the dark hair. Checked his information. Her name is, born in a mountainous region of Earth. Records show her village experienced severe winters, food shortages, and isolation. She lost her father to an accident when she was young. She worked hard labor from childhood, joined a mining operation at 16, was recruited for space work at 22. So she grew up in suffering. Yes, Commander, even by Earth standards her life was difficult. Stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the stars moved slowly past. His ship was the most powerful vessel in this sector. He had conquered empires. He had crushed rebellions. He was afraid of nothing. But now he was starting to wonder if he had made a mistake. What is the status of the prisoners? He asked. 12 are badly injured but alive. 6 have given us useful information. The captain is unconscious. The woman is back in her cell. She is surprisingly stable considering what she has experienced. Surprisingly stable, repeated quietly. He turned away from the window and looked at, double the guards, make sure the cells are secure, and tell the crew to stay alert. Looked confused. Commander, these are just humans. They are locked in cells. They have no weapons. What threat could they possibly pose? Did not answer immediately. He was thinking about the report, about creatures that evolved in hell and learned to call it home. Just do as I say, he finally said. "And do not underestimate them. Do not ever underestimate them." Bowed and left the room. Returned to the window. He stared at his own reflection in the glass. He was still the commander. He was still in control. But somewhere deep inside, a small voice was whispering a warning. You should not have laughed at her. He pushed the thought away and drank more of his blue liquid, but it did not help him relax anymore. The cold feeling in his stomach remained. In the cell below sat in the darkness. Her body hurt everywhere. Every breath was painful. Every movement was agony, but she was alive, and she was thinking. She had seen the way the guards looked at her. At first, they looked at her with contempt like she was nothing. But now some of them looked at her differently. Some of them looked nervous. Good, she thought, they are starting to understand. She closed her eyes and remembered her village. She remembered the cold winters when the snow was so deep they could not open their doors. She remembered the summer storms that destroyed their crops. She remembered her father's funeral, standing in the rain, watching them lower his body into the frozen ground. She had survived all of that. She would survive this too. And when she was ready, she would make Commander understand something important. Pain was not just something humans experienced. Pain was something humans could give. She opened her eyes and looked at the door. Soon, she thought, very soon. The ship hummed quietly around her. The guards walked their patterns. They slept, thinking they were safe. They had no idea what was coming. On the fifth night, the lights went out. It happened suddenly, without warning. One moment, the ship was humming with life and energy. The next moment, everything went dark. The emergency lights came on, painting the corridors in dim red. In the command center, stood up from his chair. "What happened?" he demanded. His officers were rushing around, pressing buttons and checking screens, looked up with worry in his eyes. "Power failure in the main reactor, Commander. We are running on backup systems only." "How long until full power returns?" "Unknown. The engineers are working on it." Felt the cold feeling return to his stomach. He did not believe in accidents, not anymore. Check the prisoner cells, now. Spoke into his communicator. A few seconds passed, then his face became very pale. "Commander, the cell doors are open." In the darkness of the lower levels, was moving. She moved quietly, staying in the shadows, listening to every sound around her. Her body was still hurt from the torture, but she ignored the pain. Pain was just a signal. It did not control her. She controlled it. When the power failed, she had acted immediately. She had been watching the guards for 5 days. She knew their patterns. She knew when they were tired. She knew when they looked away. And she knew about the loose bolt in the ceiling of her cell, the one she had been slowly working on every night with her fingernails. The bolt had come free just as the lights died. She had pulled herself up into the ventilation system and crawled through the narrow metal tubes. Her small body was an advantage here. They were too big to follow. Now she was hunting. The first guard she found was young. He was standing alone in a corridor, holding his weapon nervously, looking around at the red darkness. He never saw her coming. Dropped from the ceiling and landed on his back. Before he could make a sound, she wrapped her arm around his neck and squeezed. They was bigger and stronger than her, but she knew exactly where to press. Her father had taught her how to catch animals in the mountains. The technique was the same. The guard struggled for a few seconds, then went limp, lowered him gently to the floor and took his weapon. It was heavy, designed for hands, but she could make it work. She moved on. The other prisoners were still in their cells. The doors had opened, but most of them were too injured to move. Was awake, leaning against the wall, breathing heavily. He whispered when he saw her, "How did you?" "No time," she said. "Can you walk?" "Maybe a little." "Good, help the others. Get everyone to the escape pods on deck 7. I will create a distraction." Grabbed her arm. "What kind of distraction?" Looked at him. Her eyes were calm, but there was something behind them, something dark and old and very, very angry. The kind they will not forget. She disappeared into the shadows before he could say anything more. Had gathered his soldiers in the main corridor. There were 20 of them, all armed, all ready to fight. They moved through the ship in a tight formation, checking every room, every corner. "This is ridiculous," one of the soldiers muttered. "One human woman against all of us. She cannot do anything." "Silence," ordered, but he was thinking the same thing, or at least part of him was. Another part of him remembered the report. Category 9, extreme endurance, unpredictable psychology, never underestimate them. They found the first body near the engine room. The guard was alive but unconscious. His weapon was missing. "She has a gun now," said quietly. "She is one woman," replied. "We are 20 warriors, find her and kill her." They spread out, searching the engine room. It was a large space filled with machines and pipes and shadows, perfect for hiding. The second attack came from above. Dropped onto the back of a soldier and pressed the weapon against his head. "Drop your guns," she said. Her voice was cold and steady. "Or I kill him." The soldiers hesitated. They looked at, waiting for orders. Studied the woman. She was covered in dirt and blood. Her hair was wild. Her clothes were torn, but her hands were steady. Her eyes were focused. This was not a desperate prisoner. This was a predator. "You cannot escape," said. "Even if you kill us all, there are more soldiers on this ship. You have nowhere to go." "I do not need to escape," replied. "I just need to hurt you." She pulled the trigger. The soldier fell. Before his body hit the ground, was already moving. She rolled behind a machine and energy blasts flew over her head. She fired back, not aiming carefully, just keeping them away. They were better trained. They should have won easily, but they had never fought anything like this before. Did not fight like a soldier. She did not stand and exchange fire. She ran. She hid. She attacked from unexpected angles. She used the machines as cover, climbing over them, sliding under them, moving constantly. And she kept getting hurt. Energy blasts grazed her arm, her leg, her side. Each wound made the think she was finished, but each time she got up and kept fighting. One managed to grab her. He was huge, almost 3 times her size. He lifted her off the ground and squeezed, trying to crush her ribs. Head butted him in the face. On any other species this would have done nothing, but skull was thick and hard, shaped by millions of years of evolution on a deadly world. The nose shattered. He dropped her, screaming in shock. She kicked him in the knee. The joint bent the wrong way. He fell. She took his weapon and kept moving. By the time the fight was over, 8 soldiers were down. Some were dead. Some were unconscious. Some were badly injured. The rest had retreated, calling for backup. Stood in the center of the engine room, surrounded by fallen warriors. He could not believe what he was seeing. One human, one small, injured, tired human had done all this. He heard a sound behind him. He turned and raised his weapon. Was standing there, only 10 feet away. She was breathing hard. Blood was running down her face and her arms. She looked like she should be dead. But she was not dead. She was smiling. "Your soldiers are slow," she said, "and your ship is old. I found the reactor controls very easily." His eyes went wide. "What did you do?" "The reactor is going to overload in 15 minutes. I suggest you evacuate." Far above them, alarm sounds began to ring. Red lights flashed everywhere. A mechanical voice announced, "Warning, reactor critical. All personnel evacuate immediately." Walked past, keeping her weapon pointed at him. "My people are already heading to the escape pods. If you try to stop them, I will stay here and make sure you die with me." Could have shot her, he could have fought, but something in her eyes stopped him. He saw something there that he had never seen before in any enemy. It was not hate, it was not anger. It was certainty, complete, absolute certainty that she would do exactly what she said. "You are insane," he whispered. "No," replied. "I am human. We survive, no matter what. No matter who tries to stop us, we always survive." She disappeared into the corridor, leaving alone with his fallen soldiers and the screaming alarms. For the first time in his life, Commander ran. The ship was dying. Smoke filled the corridors. Sparks flew from broken machines. The alarms screamed without stopping. Soldiers ran in every direction, some trying to reach the escape pods, others trying to save the reactor. It was chaos. Moved through it all like a ghost. She found her crew near Deck 7, was leading them, half walking, half crawling. Some of the stronger crew members were carrying the injured ones. They looked terrible, bruised, bleeding, broken, but they were alive. Called out when she saw her, "We thought you were dead." "Not yet," replied. "Get everyone to the pods, I will watch your back." "What about you?" asked. "I have unfinished business." She did not wait for their response. She turned and walked back into the smoke and fire. She knew what she needed to do. Was in the command center trying to stop the reactor from exploding. His hands moved quickly over the controls, entering codes and pressing buttons. Was beside him, shouting orders into a communicator. "The humans have reached the escape pods," reported. "Should we stop them?" "Let them go," said. His voice was different now, not so proud, not so confident. "We need to save the ship, nothing else matters." "Commander, I managed to slow down the reactor failure. We have maybe an hour now instead of 15 minutes, but we still need." The door opened. Walked in. She was covered in blood, some of it hers, some of it not. Her stolen weapon was in her hand. Her eyes were fixed on with an intensity that made even the air feel cold. Raised his weapon but held up his hand. "Wait." "Commander." I said wait. Stopped in the middle of the room. She looked at the screens showing the damaged ship, the dying systems, the chaos in every corridor. Then she looked at. "Your escape pods are launching," she said. "My people are on one of them. If you try to shoot it down, I will kill you before you can give the order." Nodded slowly. "I will not shoot them down, you have my word." "Your word means nothing to me." "Then what do you want?" Walked closer. Each step was painful. Her body was failing. She had lost too much blood. She had pushed herself too far, but she did not show any of it. She just kept walking until she was standing right in front of. "You laughed at me," she said. "When I screamed in that chair, when I cried, when I begged you to stop, you laughed." Said nothing. "Do you still think pain is funny?" "I was wrong," said quietly. "I understand that now." "No, you do not understand, not yet." Raised her hand, and it was a small device, a blade she had taken from one of the fallen soldiers. Before anyone could react, she cut her own arm. Deep. Blood poured from the wound, running down her hand and dripping onto the floor. Stepped back in shock. Evan's 4 eyes went wide. "What are you doing?" he demanded. Did not answer. She just stood there letting the blood flow. Her face was calm, her breathing was steady. She did not scream, she did not cry, she just watched with those burning eyes. "This is nothing to me," she said. "This is what I lived with every day on Earth. Cuts, bruises, broken bones, we heal, we adapt, we continue." She raised the blade again and made another cut on her other arm. More blood, still no reaction from her. Felt something he had not felt in decades. Real fear, not the fear of battle or the fear of death. Something deeper, the fear of facing something he did not understand. "Stop," he said, his voice cracked slightly. "You are killing yourself." "Maybe," replied, "but I am showing you something first. I am showing you what humans are." She stepped closer. Now she was close enough to touch him. The blood from her arms was dripping onto his shoes. Her eyes were locked onto his. "We are not soft creatures from a fragile world. We are monsters. We grew up in a place that tried to kill us every single day. We fought against gravity that crushed our bones. We breathed air that burned our lungs. We ate food that poisoned us and learned to survive anyway. We were hunted by predators and we hunted them back. We killed them. We ate them. We wore their skins as clothes. She grabbed coat with her bloody hand, raised his weapon again but shook his head frantically. "Do not shoot," ordered, "do not shoot." Pulled him down so their faces were level. Her blood was now on his coat, on his chest, spreading like a red flower. "You tortured me for 3 days," she whispered. "You laughed at my pain. You thought you were breaking me, but you were not. You were just waking something up, something old, something dangerous." She released him and stepped back. She was swaying now. The blood loss was finally affecting her, but she did not fall. She refused to fall. "I could kill you right now," she said. "I could cut your throat and watch you bleed out on this floor. It would be fair. It would be justice." Could not speak. His mouth was dry. His hands were shaking. This was impossible. He was the commander. He had conquered worlds. How could one injured woman make him feel like this? "But I am not going to kill you," continued. "Do you know why?" Shook his head slowly. "Because I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember how it feels to be helpless, to be afraid, to know that your life is in someone else's hands and there is nothing you can do about it." She turned and walked toward the door. Her steps were unsteady now. She was leaving a trail of blood behind her. "Wait," called out. She stopped but did not turn around. "Who are you?" he asked. His voice was barely a whisper. Looked back at him over her shoulder. For a moment she almost smiled. "I told you, I am human. We are all like this, every single one of us. And if your empire ever comes to Earth, you will face billions more just like me." She walked out of the command center, leaving standing in silence. Slowly lowered his weapon. He was staring at the trail of blood on the floor, at the bloody handprint on his coat. "Commander," he said quietly, "what should we do?" Did not answer. He was thinking about the report again. Category 9, extreme endurance. The ability to survive wounds that would kill most species. And something else. Something the report had mentioned but he had not fully understood until now. Humans never forget. "Commander," repeated. Looked at his first officer with empty eyes. "Let the escape pods go, all of them. Do not follow them. Do not track them." "But sir." "That is an order." Bowed and left to carry out the command. Stood alone in the command center, surrounded by the sounds of his dying ship. He looked at the blood on his hands, on his coat, on the floor. He had spent his whole life making others feel pain. Now, for the first time, he understood what pain truly meant. The escape pod was small and crowded. 23 humans sat packed together in a space meant for 15. Most of them were injured. All of them were exhausted, but they were free. Sat near the small window, watching the stars slowly drift past. Was beside him, her head resting on his shoulder. Was in the back, treating the wounds of the crew members who were hurt the worst. Everyone was quiet. The only sound was the soft hum of the engine and the occasional beep of the life support system. They were heading toward the nearest human outpost. It would take 2 days to get there. 2 long days of waiting and hopping. But they had survived. Was lying on the floor near the door. Her arms were wrapped in bandages made from torn clothing. She had lost a lot of blood, too much blood. Her face was pale and her breathing was shallow, but she was still alive. Left his seat and walked over to her. He kneeled down beside her and took her hand. It was cold. "You should not have done that," he said softly. "Cutting yourself like that, you could have died." Opened her eyes. They were tired but still sharp. "I had to show him." "Show him what?" "That we do not break. That pain does not destroy us. That no matter what they do to us, we will always fight back." Squeezed her hand. "You scared me. You scared all of us." Almost smiled. "Good. Maybe next time you will think twice before getting captured." Despite everything, laughed. It was a small laugh, weak and tired, but it was real. Around the pod, other crew members heard it and smiled. It was the first moment of joy they had felt in days. "What do you think will happen to the commander?" asked from across the pod. "I do not know," replied, "and I do not care. He is not my problem anymore." But deep down, she did think about it. She thought about the look on his face when she walked out of the command center, the fear in his eyes, the way his hands shook, the way his voice cracked when he asked who she was. She had broken him, not with weapons, not with violence, but with truth. She had shown him what humans really were, and he could not handle it. That was enough. Far behind them, the ship drifted through space. The engineers had managed to stop the reactor from exploding, but the damage was severe. It would take weeks to repair. The ship was effectively dead in the water. Sat alone in his private room. He had not moved for hours. He just stared at the blood on his coat, at his hands, at the floor. The red had turned brown as it dried, but he could not bring himself to wash it off. He kept replaying the scene in his mind. The woman standing in front of him, cutting herself without hesitation, the blood running down her arms, the look in her eyes. No fear, no doubt, just cold, absolute certainty. He had conquered dozens of worlds. He had killed thousands of enemies. He had been called the greatest commander in the history of the Empire, and one small human woman had made him feel like a child. The door opened and entered. "Commander, the crew is waiting for orders. What should we do next?" Did not respond immediately. He was still staring at the blood. "Commander," repeated. "Tell the crew we are returning to space," finally said. His voice was flat, empty. "We will not pursue the humans. We will not attack their colony. We will leave this sector and never return." Looked shocked, "But Commander, the mission." "The mission is over," stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the stars were cold and distant. "I made a mistake. I thought humans were weak. I thought they could be broken easily. I was wrong. One woman did all this. Imagine what 1,000 of them could do. Imagine what an army of them could do. Imagine what would happen if we pushed them too far." Was silent. He had never seen his commander like this. The great, the conqueror of worlds, looked old and tired and afraid. "There is something else," said quietly. "When we return to the Empire, I will make a report. I will recommend that Earth be classified as off-limits. No contact, no trade, no military action. We will leave the humans alone. The Council will not be happy. The Council has not seen what I have seen." Turned to face his first officer. His 4 eyes were full of something had never seen before: respect. "That woman could have killed me. She had every right to. I tortured her. I laughed at her. I treated her like an animal. And when she had me at her mercy, she chose to let me live. Do you understand what that means?" Shook his head. "It means humans are not just strong. They are not just dangerous. They are something more. They have a capacity for mercy that we do not have. They can choose to forgive even their worst enemies." Looked down at his blood-stained hands one more time. "But they can also choose not to. And if we give them a reason to hate us, truly hate us, they will never stop. They will never forget. They will hunt us across the stars until there is nothing left of our empire but dust and memory." He clenched his fists. "We must never give them that reason. Do you understand?" Bowed his head. "Yes, Commander, I understand." Nodded and turned back to the window. "Good, now go. I wish to be alone." After left, stood in silence for a long time. He thought about everything that had happened. The capture of the human ship, the torture, the escape, the confrontation. And the mercy. He had begged for his life. He, Commander, had looked into the eyes of a bleeding, broken woman and begged for mercy. And she had given it to him. Not because she was weak, not because she had to, but because she chose to. That, more than anything, was what terrified him. 2 days later, the escape pod reached the human outpost. Medical teams rushed to help the survivors. There were doctors and nurses and soldiers, all of them working together to save the injured crew. Was carried off on a stretcher. She had slipped into unconsciousness during the journey and her vital signs were weak, but she was still breathing, still fighting. Walked beside her holding her hand. "Stay with us," he kept saying. "You did not come this far to die now. Stay with us." They took her to the medical center and worked on her for hours. Blood transfusions, surgery, advanced healing technology, everything they had. When she finally woke up, 3 days had passed. She was in a clean white bed in a quiet room. Sunlight was coming through the window, real sunlight, not the artificial lights of a spaceship. Was sitting in a chair next to her bed. When she saw us eyes open, she jumped up with a cry of joy. "You are awake, she is awake." The room quickly filled with crew members. They surrounded her bed, laughing and crying and talking all at once. Looked at them with tired eyes, trying to understand what was happening. "You saved us," said, pushing through the crowd. His eyes were wet with tears. "You saved all of us." Tried to speak, but her throat was dry. Someone gave her water and she drank slowly. "What happened to the?" she finally asked. "They left. They turned their ship around and went back to their own space. They did not even try to follow us." Nodded slowly. She was not surprised. She had seen the fear in his eyes. She had shown him what would happen if he continued to fight. And he had listened. "Good," she said, "then it is over." She closed her eyes and leaned back against the pillow. Around her, her crew continued to celebrate. They were alive. They were free. They were going home. But did not celebrate. She just rested, letting the warmth of the sunlight wash over her face. She thought about her village in the mountains. She thought about her father. She thought about all the hard years that had made her who she was. She had been born on a. She had been shaped by suffering and struggle and pain. And when the darkness had come for her, she had not run away. She had fought back. And she had won. Far across the galaxy, Commander wrote his report. He described everything that had happened in clear, simple language. He did not hide his fear. He did not try to make himself look better. He told the truth. At the end of the report, he added one final note. "Never underestimate the humans. They may look weak. They may seem harmless. But they are the children of a world that tried to kill them every single day. And they survived. They will always survive. No matter what we do to them. No matter how hard we try to break them. They will never stop fighting. Leave them alone. That is my final recommendation. Leave them alone." The report was sent to the council. They read it with great interest. Some of them laughed at first, not believing that one human could cause so much trouble. But then they read the rest. They saw the list of dead and injured soldiers. They saw the damage to the ship. They saw the fear in its words. And one by one, they stopped laughing. Earth remained untouched. The Empire never returned to human space. And across the galaxy, a new story began to spread. A story about a small woman from who made a powerful commander beg for mercy. A story about what it meant to be human.